Welcome to the Awe and Wonder podcast. We're really excited for this new series on cultural responsiveness. I'm Sarah Kinsella,
I'm Brenda Del Monte.
and today we're joined by Toi and Cece.
I'm super excited. This is a family that I worked with, and their daughter is someone who I met when she was 2, and we got her a communication device, eye gaze. That's how smart this chica is. And she's 3 now. And we have had some amazing conversations about this topic, and I have appreciated your openness. And as we got thinking about putting together the cultural responsiveness series, I was like, I hope that you guys are willing to be as candid with our audience as you have been with me, because it's been such a joy to get to know you both and your family and to hear your story. And it's changed the way that I look at things, I think, for the better. So I'm hopeful that that's the result of this conversation. Tell us a little bit about your family dynamic.
So we are a same-sex couple. We have 2 children, one who has special needs, our daughter Tia and our son Kai. Our daughter is 3, our son is 11. And my daughter started having seizures at 2, which caused some developmental delays as well.
2 months.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes, 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very traumatic time for me because with seizures, the type of seizures that she has, she doesn't stop like a typical seizure. Most people will stop in anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. So they will normally wait. When you call 911, you expect them to come to your house and fix it. If you call for help, you expect someone to fix it. They came, she was seizing. Since we didn't know this was her first seizure, that they had to be timed, they waited. So when they got there, I thought I was going to feel relieved, but everyone just stood around staring at me.
Wow.
So I totally panicked. My wife was there. She came home because I called her. The paramedics was there. My mother-in-law was there, but everyone was staring. Felt like everyone was staring at me. I'm just holding my baby and she's actively seizing.
Right. And you don't know what to do.
Right. This is my first experience with a seizure, let alone my 2-month-old.
Right.
So I'm like really freaking out. And she's, like I said, just going. And it had progressed from like a little tick to like full blown ticking. They gave her some medication. It didn't do anything. And they gave her Versed. And they had gave her at least 2 or 3 doses of Versed. And this went on, my daughter seized for about 2 hours. So that was our first experience.
Okay.
Well, the first experience too, though, when she actually got to the hospital, that was, I don't think that went well either. It was COVID. Only one of us could go.
Only one of us could go.
And then they kind of were just, oh, she has epilepsy. Give her this medication. Bring her back in 6 months.
Yeah. So once everything happened, they told me that she has epilepsy, that she could only take this one medication. They gave me phenobarbital in the liquid form, and there's no diet. There's nothing else we can do, but just give her this medicine.
Yeah.
And
wow.
I had videotaped something else while I was at the hospital. And I'm like, is this a seizure? Because this is, of course, the first time. And she did something different while we were in the hospital. They were like, nope, she only has that one kind of seizure. That's the only kind of seizure there is. Nothing else. Here you go. Come back in like 3 to 4 months, I think is what they told me.
Yeah.
Just very,
wow.
You don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what you're talking about. Just go. Your baby's fine. Give her this medicine.
And in your experience, do you think that that's how they handle all people with all seizures?
No, not at all.
Tell me why.
There's a lot of different factors. Number one, I mean, we look a little bit younger than what people think we are. That's number one.
We look younger then.
I mean, we look younger then too. Now, I don't know, but we look a lot younger, and they tend to treat younger people as if
Mhm.
they don't know what they're talking about. And
Mhm.
being that it's only one person going to the hospital at the time, and not to mention, I mean, she had just had her 2 months ago, and anybody who's had a baby knows your hormones are all over the place. You're not thinking clearly, and it's kind of like a bullying situation. It's this is what it is. Don't ask any questions. She's still alive, so you're fine. Go home.
Yeah.
Mm.
It was
And
very dismissive. It was
And
just
you
yeah,
like,
don't have a partner there to kind of help you filter what you're hearing and ask
and
those
they were
questions.
very, very brutal. I mean, no consideration at all when talking to us. And that not only happened at that hospital, but it happened for a while
yeah.
where
Mm.
we had to learn how to be like, okay, watch how you're talking to us, because you coming in the room just saying, she's gonna die in a couple of weeks, or
Someone told
she's
me
gonna
that.
die in a month, and there's nothing you can really do about it. But there was
Wow.
tons of things. They sent her home that first time, and at the time, we didn't know, but she was having like 50, 60 seizures a day, and she was turning purple. And we
Ouch.
were like, what are we supposed to do?
Right.
And I think we made an appointment at Phoenix Children's. And before we could even make it to the first appointment, we ended up at the hospital with
Again.
her again. So we never really got to see a neurologist before we ended up in intensive care with
Right.
her. And finally, I think that might have been our fourth or fifth time. The doctor we had made an appointment with had finally come in, and they were just, it was
It was
rough.
when they sent you home that first time when she was 2 months old, right?
Yeah.
Did they give you resources and
They
say
gave
like,
us
here's
nothing,
So
nothing.
apparently you're supposed to have like a rescue plan. You're supposed to have like rescue meds. None of that. They gave me a bottle of phenobarbital, told us that what she had to take it.
They told us once a day. They really did no research at that
No.
hospital on her at all. It was
and
more so they stopped the seizure, go home, figure it out.
You just felt very dismissed. There was no, do you have any questions? There was no opportunity.
Well, like I said, when I proposed that question, it was more so like they didn't even want to really look at the video. Like, no, she had that one kind of seizure. That's it.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, there is a diet. There is rescue meds. There is a certain procedure. There are all kind of resources. They gave me no resources. It was like, oh, so she had her shots. Oh, okay, because she had her shots maybe a week before
Mhm.
or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, well, she just has epilepsy. Here's this. And I was like, well, can you at least look at this? Is this because just now she just did this funny thing when you
Mhm.
guys were outside of the room? Like, are you sure this
yeah.
isn't something? No.
Okay.
It was very much as I was treated like a child, and that I didn't know what I was talking about. I just needed to leave them alone. Like they had other things to do. I
Mm.
was of no importance. I didn't necessarily go to the doctor that often, so I didn't know what questions to ask. And this was like a whole new experience all at once. And I'm so used to being with my partner. She's slightly older than
That's
me.
me.
Yeah, I'm so used to being with Toy. And we had always been there. COVID, like we said, it could only be one person.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I went, and I don't think we hadn't gone to the emergency room for Kai even.
No. we
So
Right. Your older son, you have experience having a child, but not this
Yes.
experience.
yes. So it was just a whole shock about everything. And the first time I was very fish out of water. We realized we had to learn and learn quickly.
Yeah.
And eventually we did. And yes, I do feel like our race played a big part of it. We've had the fire department come and get so sick of coming to save my daughter's life. Like he had other places to be, that he basically told me to shut up. And he was a white male. And
Wow.
what can I really say to him? Because we have to speak up for our child, but we can't speak up too much because then we're the angry Black women, or we're just belligerent.
Mm.
Mm.
They don't want to help us for that. So it's like, do I speak up and say something? Because they are the only ones who have the resources to give my daughter what she needed at that time. We weren't allowed certain types of drugs to give to my daughter that she requires.
Why?
Just because I guess you have to be trained, or they just don't, doctors don't feel like that's something that we should administer.
Okay.
Why do you think of that?
No, a lot of it had to do with them getting to know her. We didn't know her enough to give her certain things. We didn't know how she would respond to certain things.
Well, her protocol is also very different.
Yeah, her protocol is different now, but back then when that happened, we had to see what would happen if, I mean, because she gets a shot of ketamine at home that we give to her
Now.
and they don't just give out ketamine to anybody. It doesn't matter. Now that part doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
You have to have a reason to have it. And are we going to, I think that their primary worry was, are we going to overdose her because she takes diazepam, phenobarbital, and then ketamine? So it's like, do we give these parents access to all these drugs and then we're going to be held responsible? I think that's the drug part.
To get the drugs that you need is to have a home-based nurse. And so that is a service that is an option for you, but it does mean that someone's going to be in your home all the time. And did you guys try that? And how did that go? And tell us a little bit about that.
So, having somebody come into your home, it's intrusive, first of all. And then we have another child to think about. And interviewing nurses was very difficult. We had a couple of nurses come in and one of them was like, I don't watch other kids. Don't ask me to look at your other kid. And I'm like, well, geez, if my son falls and hits his head, you're telling me you're not going to help him? Okay, that's fine. And then we ended up going with a lady who she was a white woman and she was a little older. She had seen a lot. And, I'm like, well, I mean, it shouldn't matter like that she's white. If she's going to help her and she's been in these situations, then let's give her a try.
Experience. Yeah.
Right. But culturally, people do things different ways. And if you're not aware of that or you're not thinking about it, I mean, like this lady stuck her hand in my daughter's mouth without a glove. And don't do that. Don't do that.
After she was just eating herself.
Yeah. I mean, like some habits where I was like, oh, yeah, that didn't work. And we hired a Black nurse. The problem with that is culturally, we were raised to respect our elders. And this lady was a good, she might have been a good 20 years older than us. So we didn't really let her do anything.
Oh, okay.
And not only that, she would like fall asleep. She was older.
Yeah.
And so I was
when you say, sorry, Toi, when you say raised to respect your elders, as in you would do things for them to help them, right? So they didn't have to.
Right. I mean, like if she's like up there towards my grandma's age, I mean, I'm not going to let her pick up something heavy.
That job requires some heavy lifting. And yeah.
Right.
I remember you saying that you were stressed out though when you had to call 911. Like you felt like, how much time do we have to? One of you is going to attend to your seizing daughter, and the other one's going to clean the house because you you felt like anyone coming in was going to be judging are we fit mothers? Is that an accurate recap of that?
Yeah, absolutely. When you have anybody come into your home as a Black person, I mean, we're always judged on a different level. And people say they don't do it, but they do. They look at things differently when they come into your house. It can be from the way you talk, or if her toys aren't wiped off the way somebody feels like they should be wiped off. And even her, I mean, like I make sure her hair is combed before people come over. And if it's
Mm.
not, I will lose my mind because she's on the floor a lot. And somebody could easily say, well, her hair is matted. They're not taking care of her.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I know her hair is not matted, but that's the way that it looks. That's what
Mhm.
the appearance is. And to have somebody come in and make those kind of judgments about you when healthcare workers come into your home, they hold all the power. They can literally call CPS for anything. If I tell her something and I say, no, 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 don't do that, and they don't like how I said that, they can call and say that I'm being abusive to her because I told her don't do that and she's handicapped.
Or combing her hair.
Or combing her hair because
She doesn't like it.
I have to hold her to comb her hair, but her
Yeah.
hair needs to be combed. If I don't comb her hair and she ends up going to the hospital and the hospital's like, well, why is she not together? Like, why does
Right.
this look like this? They can call.
Right.
So it's
Right.
always a sensitive area, especially for me. I don't like the fire department to come in my house if we have toys everywhere, because who's to say that they're going to be like, well, this is an unsafe environment for her. What if she hits her head on one of these toys? And then I'm like, well, I mean, it's her toy. Like, it
Right.
can't be on the floor. But you do have people who are racist and
Yeah.
they hide it. I mean, I read an article about them hurting little black kids because they're shoving needles in them and they're doing it the wrong way. I've seen the fire department stab her in her leg, and
With
I
no
mean,
regard.
I want to lose my mind because that's not the way you give a shot. I know how to give a
Mm.
shot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So why are you sticking her like that? And they don't care. And I can say something, but I have to be really mindful of how I say it because I can be really taken as the aggressor. And then when I get upset, everything goes left. And it's like,
Right.
I have every right to be upset.
Right.
But
Right. Right.
I mean,
Where
I feel like I do.
No, you do. It's just like with the whole fire department thing.
Yeah.
There were several people in our house at that time.
Yeah.
However, the only one who could speak up
Was another man.
was another white
man.
male, because there
Yeah.
was a Hispanic guy who works for the fire department who comes to our house often. There were other people there, but people of color, we all knew that it couldn't be us. Like, as much as my wife would want to stand up for me, she couldn't.
No.
There was nothing that we could physically do. We were at he was the captain. So
right.
it was his call.
Mhm.
So honestly, just it sounds exhausting. Just that these are the things that you're dealing with constantly. And like you said, Toy, that there are people who are racist and there's people who don't think they're racist, right? But are making these judgments, like you guys said. So thinking about this, all these people in your house, or even just Brenda in your house, right? Some people coming to your house to help your daughter, your kids. Are there things that have gone well? You know what I mean? Like in that situation, or what are some things that could change this?
It would take, like they say, it takes a village to
Mhm.
raise a kid. It takes a whole community to recognize certain things. And like that other captain that was there, he
Mhm.
knew what the other guy was doing wasn't right.
And
And
he
he
spoke up.
did as he should have done. He said, wait a minute, you need to calm down.
Oh,
And
okay.
he looked at us and he asked us, he said, what's going on? Like, how do you guys know she's still seizing? I mean, he genuinely cared. And
Yeah.
that's what it's going to take. It's going to take for other people to care, for things to fall in line, and acknowledge the fact that it does happen.
Yeah.
Because you get some people who won't even acknowledge it. I didn't see that, but you
Right.
did see it. And when they start to care, it makes a world of difference.
It
We
does.
have people at the hospital when we go to Phoenix Children's, they know her, they care. They're like,
Mhm.
I remember Tia when she was 4 months old. No, you listen to their parents. So now that
Right.
we've built this rapport with the hospital and the
A whole
fire,
mini community.
yeah, you have to build a community. And if you
Mhm.
don't know the right avenues to take, then your baby will die. That's the bottom line. I mean, that's how serious it is for us.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody's like that, but
So it's caring, but it's also it's giving you guys space to talk and have opinions too, and to give you the space
And not be so defensive. I mean, if I'm asking you a question, it's not because I think I know more than you. It's
Right.
because I'm trying to figure out how to save my baby's life. It has
Right.
nothing to do with you. Take self out of it and think about it from a parent's perspective. I mean, I've actually told the fire department that, like, I'm not trying to step on your toes. I just
Mhm.
need to know what your protocol is so I can come up with something to help her, because we did it where we stopped calling the fire department. They had made me so mad that I was like, you know what? I'll take my baby to the hospital myself.
Not just mad, but uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, or is he going to retaliate again? Is he going to get mad again and not want to take my baby? To the point
Yeah.
where we were driving our own baby to the hospital. We were performing
Seizing.
CPR on her. Like, and you're in this distress mode. Like, it is so much going on. Your emotions are heightened. On top of that, I have postpartum. So it's just a lot going on. And it's COVID. And we have a
Right.
whole nother kid. So
Right.
it's like we didn't have our own family support system here because of COVID.
Right.
So it was just us.
It was the
Mhm.
perfect storm for sure. You know, early intervention in most states, if not all,
Sorry.
is in home. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them is because it's hard actually to get Tia up and out of the house into a clinic for therapy services, right? And so
Yes.
I think that there were some best intentions behind making birth to three home based, because they want to keep their child in their natural environment, and they want to be training parents on how to best, move their child through developmental stages. Do you think that the in-home services is a service delivery model that makes people of color uncomfortable?
Yes, it does. We're taught at a young age, you don't let everybody in your house. Everybody does not have the best intentions. You have to get a feel for people and see how they are. And two, for us, taking some of that responsibility, is sometimes you have to let things go. There's a lot of things that I don't like, but if somebody's going to come in here and help her,
Mhm.
then I have to put all those things aside to let them help her, because she needs the help. Like, so you kind of have to have that balance of what does my baby need versus what I'm comfortable with. And I've taken her to in clinic, and I'm not comfortable with in clinic either, because it's dirty. You have all these kids, and every time she's gotten sick, she's ended up in the hospital. So
Mhm.
I'm like, what choices do I have to make here? It's best that somebody comes to the house for her, and I just let them in. If that
Mhm.
requires me cleaning up every day and combing her hair every day and getting her dressed every day, then that's what we're gonna have to do. But it really, it's, what does your child need in the end? So
Right.
yeah, I just feel like in-home services, you do still have to be careful too, because there's some therapy people who come in your house and they are not as, what do you say, hygienic as you would like them to be.
Mm.
Like I see a lot of people, they'll walk in your house with their shoes on. I don't like shoes on in my house. She rolls
Right.
on the carpet, your shoes are nasty. You step in all kind of stuff outside.
Step on the mat.
Or they'll step on her mat. I've taken her to
Mhm.
in clinic places, and we've brought our own wipes to clean the mats, and people will come from another room and walk
on it.
on the mat.
Mhm.
And I'm like I almost have a heart attack, because once again, her immune system is not all the way developed, and you don't know how critical she is. Just because she's moving around and she's acting like she's okay doesn't mean that she's okay.
Right.
So
Right.
I do think that's something simple that a home-based therapist can get used to doing, is saying, would you like me to take my shoes off? That's something that I think anybody and everybody can do for kids that are on the ground a lot, which is every toddler, regardless of disability. And then if they aren't able to crawl or, pull themselves off the floor, then even more so. But that seems like a no-brainer that we could all be like, would you like me to take my shoes off? Every time we go into someone's house, because that's something that doesn't need to be a barrier. It just is a normal responsiveness to go into someone's home is permission to, where can I be? Where do you want me? We say that too. We say, we have some questions for you, and then we want to work with her. Where would you like to do this? Like, I'm not walking in your home and assuming that you want me on the floor with her, or on the couch or at the kitchen table. Like, you tell me
Right.
where you want me. And
Right.
I do recognize that we are specialists in our areas. That's why we're coming, right?
Right.
But the other thing is acknowledging that you are specialists in Tia. You are specialists in your daughter. And I have this one little piece, right? I'm a communication specialist, so I have this one little expertise, but that's only a small part of her and her skills and her abilities. So
Right.
I think when we talk about the firefighters and stuff, it's like the one that finally said, well, why do you guys think this is a seizure? Like, they're stopping to go, you know her better. This is the first time I laid my eyes on this person, or this is the third time. Either way, they're not the expert on her.
You have people though who are in their field for so long that they know it all. And I mean, the fire guy that came, he was another captain, and he said that he had taken a class about her, and so he wanted to see. So his questions were like, why do you guys say she's seizing? What does the doctor say? But now we know better. I know when to tell them, yes, she is. I've told the hospital that. They've moved her from one room to the next room, and I was like, she's not done. And they just totally ignored what I said. And I'm like, okay. They got in the next room, and then her other side started. And I'm like, had you listened, you could have cut that down. Like, I know you guys don't think her brain activity is that important, obviously, but it's still happening, and she's still seizing. So just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening with her. I get it, not with other kids, but with her.
Yeah, parents know their kids.
I feel like seizures are like fingerprints, though. Every single child that I see that has seizures, they look different, they act different, and the parents are so in tune with what that is, with how to keep the environment the way they need stable so that the seizure doesn't go as long. And they also know about the rescue meds. I mean, they just know. If I catch it early enough, great. If it's too late, then it's not gonna, like, whatever it is, like every single one of them has a different little nuances that help their child when they're having seizures. And we have to be listening. I mean, that seems just like a basic human treatment, is to listen to parents with kids with disabilities, because they are living this life. You are not.
No, they don't, though. Yeah. They don't. They don't.
Toi and Cece, I'm really curious about, by the way, did Tia just wake up? I saw you guys looking at her.
She did.
Oh, fun. Well, I'm really curious about your experience with communication with Tia. What does she do for communication right now? What kind of system does she have? And just a little bit about how you that process and how that went for you.
So at first it was really, really hard before we knew she was having seizures, or I'm sorry, in the very beginning when we first found out she was having seizures, she used to cry all night. We didn't know why she was crying. I mean, later on we figured it out, but she would cry all night. And then after that, the bigger she got, she started using her eyes. Her eyes were
And her micro movement.
Oh yeah. And so I follow the eyes. Carrisa follows her micro movements.
I do all of it.
Well, so she says. But her eyes, and then once we got the communication device, I mean, I like the communication device. I don't really like her telling me let's go all the time when we go out. Like, as soon as we get somewhere, the first thing she always goes to is let's go. I want to get in the car. And I'm like, but we just got here. So but I think it's great. Like, now we do communication device. The communication device actually has her more verbal. She makes a lot more noise now than she did. You can get a loud scream out of her, which she wasn't doing before.
That's interesting, Toy, because I think some parents, they think that maybe if you have a communication device that you're going to become less verbal. So it's nice to hear your perspective.
Yeah, no, she definitely started trying to mouth stuff more,
Oh, yeah.
a lot more. I even swear sometimes she's trying to sing to the songs on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
But she likes the communication device, but I also think too, she's the type of person that if I don't give her what she wants when she wants it, she gets a little upset and she's like, I'm not going to use that. And I have to say it again. Or Carissa makes her say things a couple of times before we respond, or not respond to it, but before we actually do it to make sure that's what she meant. She still does a lot of exploring on it though.
Mm-hmm. She's using her eyes. It's an eye gaze system.
Yeah, it's a nice eye gaze. Yes,
Uh-huh.
ma'am.
And you still follow her eyes without the system, I'm sure,
Oh,
and follow her
yeah.
movements.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
Her
Definitely.
eyes, she does like these little micro smiles for like yes.
Sorry.
If she doesn't like something, she of course no pushes. She's very responsive. She's trying to get in the camera now.
Yeah.
Ah,
Trying to.
She's like, "What do you guys have? Let me see it."
right. So was that another situation where you had somebody in your house, right? Now you have another person in your house to figure out communication systems.
Oh, yeah. They're I know I'm not supposed to say this, but they were the best. They were the best people that we have ever come in contact with.
You can
And
say that here.
I
Who
kid
was
you not. Like I wish that even taking her in clinic for speech therapy and stuff, they've never been as helpful as that day.
So
I
that's
mean,
Brenda and Melanie.
and
Is that,
Melanie, yeah, that was
So
that was quite amazing. I
what was
mean,
it? What was it that you think?
So they were like a breath of fresh air because that was the first time I feel like that woke us up
yeah,
to there is other possibilities. There are other ways for my baby to communicate, other ways for my baby to learn, because so many
and
people
let her do it. Let her do it the way she wants to do
Yes.
it. Don't try to
Well,
make her fit into that little box with everybody else. Yeah.
You
they were
sound
like,
like
"Oh,
Brenda.
we
Well,
can roll
I'm so intrigued that Toy's saying let her do it, because part of let her do it means that you have to wait, and it almost looks like suffering because you're waiting for her to respond. And Toy's like, I know what she wants. She doesn't have to ask for it. I'm just gonna give it to her. And I'm like, no,
I want to
no,
give
wait,
it to
make her
her.
wait, make her wait.
I know. I hate to make her wait.
But
Ugh.
now you're on here preaching, let her do it.
Let her do it. And you know what's funny is now I let her do it.
I
She
know.
plays with her tablet and I don't run to her right away to push the button for her. I
Right.
let her do it and she can do it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, you got it, girlfriend. You get it. You get it.
Mhm.
And yeah, she does really good. So yes, they were awesome. And
But
I wish.
I will say this one thing that we did that's outside of the realm of the communication device evaluation, but we just do this with our kids with complex bodies like hers, is like we talk to the parents about how does she play, right? And that is what so many parents, almost all parents of kids with significant physical disabilities, are like, how do I play with my child? And so we had a switch activated toy, I think, maybe in my car or something. Yeah, that sounds like my car. And so then the other thing is we were like, well, she could hit the switch with her head. Like she doesn't have to use her hand. Like
That was it.
what
Yeah.
part of her body does she move independently? And I feel like based on your reactions, that was the first time somebody even asked you guys that question, is what can she do independently? What should she physically do? And what is she motivated to do? Does she, does she like music? Does she like vibration? Does she like what? Like, I feel like we had an honest conversation about base stuff. Like, how does she play? What does she like? And I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but have other therapists come in with a different agenda or something than listening to what you guys have to say about how she plays?
Yeah, when you guys came in, it was more so, how can we help you guys continue to develop more? How can we make this work for her? How can we make communication work, which is comfortable for her? Everyone else was more so,
You have to push the button with her hand. She cannot do this. So it was constantly, she can't do this, she can't do this. And you guys were more so, well, what can she do? Okay, oh, she can do that. Okay, well, let's try her head. Let's see if she likes that. And she activated the button, and it was like, oh my gosh. Like, you guys were okay with getting on the floor. Like, day one, they had no problem taking their shoes off, but actually getting on the floor, getting in her space and seeing what her world was like. Before, no one ever was like, what is Tia's world like? It's just like, this is the standard protocol. We're going to do this. Even though Tia is not standard by any means, everyone from doctors to therapists were all like, this is how we've always done it. This is how we're going to do it. This is how it needs to be done. You guys need to do it this way.
In your mind, they're the experts. In your mind, you're like, I'm not going to question it. I'm not a speech pathologist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a right. So you're not even, I mean, nobody has, I feel like a lot of parents don't feel like they have the freedom to question the quote expert in this situation. So what you're talking about is coming at it from a deficit. What she can't do these things. So, or she can do these things. So it's like strength-based versus deficit-based, right? So if you're looking at what can she do and let's move that forward, that's a completely different approach than these are all of her limitations. So I guess we have to do that.
Right.
Even if you land at the same spot, it's the way you come at it is how you get, the buy-in, which was not hard at all. I mean, as soon as she hit the switch and she made the toy go, you guys were like, tell me more, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I knew my baby was communicating other ways, but it felt like no one was validating that, and that was not enough. That was not okay. And it was constantly people telling me that this is not okay. Something's wrong with your baby. Like, something's wrong with you. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. She can't do this. And you guys were more like, oh no, that's communication. If you see those small, you see this, you see that, that's communication. And we were seeing things and we were responding to her, not realizing that she was communicating with us, but because it was non-verbal communication, we were not validating it and not even recognizing that we were anticipating her stuff because we were reading her body language, her eyes, her mouth, the direction that she moved, the direction that she turned, all of those little things. And you guys said, yes, that's all communication. You are right. That is a form of communication and it can be different.
Oh, go ahead, Toy.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, for somebody like myself who's not really creative, you don't realize that she's communicating without talking. I was so focused on her talking to me and telling me stuff that I didn't even realize that when she wakes up in the morning and she looks at me and then she looks at that TV, that she's telling me, I mean, I know she's telling me to turn it on, but it didn't register as she's telling me, like, yeah, she communicates with me every day, all day long.
Yeah. And that must have been such an exciting feeling to kind of have that aha, right? Because you knew she had something to say, but you didn't know what that was looking like.
So some of it is validating that what she is doing is communication, labeling that and calling it what it is. And the other is validating what your gut was telling you, was that she's telling me this, she's telling me that. You weren't calling it communication because it wasn't words, but validating that your gut was right on that. That when she does these things, when she smirks, she's got you. She knows exactly what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll ask that question. I'll say, do you think she understands what you're saying? And parents will go, oh yeah. And then I say, how do you know? The follow-up question is the most insightful thing I'm going to get is you're going to go, well, when we say this, she smirks. It's like, oh, because that sense of humor piece is a high cognitive skill. Or when we say no, she looks at us before she goes ahead and does it. Right. Or whatever. Although, trust me, viewers, Toy does not say no.
I don't. Not really. Unless she's gonna hurt herself, then I'll tell her no.
There we go.
Yeah. Other than that, no.
It's just an inside joke about me telling you sometimes you got to, but
she's a princess. Why would I tell her no?
I think that when you listen to family, when they say, oh no, I know she knows what I'm saying, instead of going, well, does she follow a one-step direction? Does she follow a two-step direction? Like the things that we end up, we as speech pathologists are clicking off some checklist. We miss the opportunity to go, how do you know? I believe you that she knows what you're saying, but tell me that story, because that lets me know how she's communicating and in what way she's doing that. And it lets you realize that that's communication, and it lets you be heard about these are the nonverbal ways I am communicating with my child, and it is communication. And I think we miss the opportunity sometimes when we're doing this quick interview, because then we're going to get to the standardized test or the this or this or that, without going, and how do you know that? I mean, tell me a story about that, because the story makes everybody human. That piece of paper where you're checking a box and follow one-step directions, there's no humanity in that.
Yeah, no, everybody doesn't fit in that. Everybody doesn't fit in it. And not only does everybody not fit in it, those aren't natural ways that we think. Once again, this was our first time with any special needs. Like, there's nobody really in our family with any special needs.
Right.
Other than autistic. So, but this was Toy and I's first experience. And then this is with our child. So certain things is just not natural for us to think that way, where their box is like, well, what was some of the terms that they would even use were just like, I don't know. We don't look at her like, when they came in, it was more so like, let's get the baseline. Let's get to the lay of the land. Let's find out about you guys, about Tia, and let's see how we can make this work for all of us. We've had a lot of people come in where it's like, we have to do this, this, and this, and then I'm out of here as quickly as I can possibly be. I think they were even there one time where she had a seizure.
Yeah.
And instead of being like, well, I have stuff to do,
They said, you need help?
You need help? What do you need from us? What can we do? Take your time, do whatever you need to do. It wasn't like, Tia has a certain time to do this test. Okay, we need to go. It was, like I said, it was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And
we aren't saying, do you need help because we have a lot of experience and we know how to help this situation. We're saying, do we need help because you know what you need, and we don't know.
You guys were human. You guys
true.
had natural compassion. Like, I feel like you guys, yeah, everybody doesn't have that. You guys made a connection, and not everybody makes a connection that we are not just patients and parents. We are all people.
Right.
It's not if I'm asking you a question, it's not a personal attack on you. I'm wanting to learn.
Right.
I feel that you're an expert. I'm trying to learn. If I'm asking, should I do this with my child? Should I do this? How about this? I'm asking because I want to learn. I want to be the best parent that I can be, but I need your help because I'm out of my depth, and you're supposed to be the expert.
But if you feel like, and if I'm putting words in your mouth, then stop me. If, as being a Black woman, if you ask questions, you are perceived as being aggressive.
Yep.
If I don't ask it in the right tone, I'm aggressive.
Okay.
If it's the wrong tone, I can be ignorant. It's like, duh, like, you don't know this already.
Okay.
And where was I supposed to learn this?
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't go to medical school. You guys go to medical school for years, and you specialize in that one field. I have to be an expert in all of your fields,
Right.
and be a parent at the same time, but also know my place.
Right.
Know that I'm not a doctor, but I have to know your job.
Right.
Like, I have to know your job, know your hospital. Like, it came to a point where I'm like, okay, I know this is the best IV nurse. I know Banner Hospital only keeps a 3.5 laryngoscope on the 6th floor. Why don't they have it in an emergency room? Whatever. I'm making that up. But it's just like all of these little things. I shouldn't have to know those details. The respiratory therapist, this. You guys know one field, but I have to know them all. And then when I ask you a question, like I said, I have to play this balancing game. What type of person am I going to be dealing with today? Are they going to look at me as a child if I'm too muted? If I'm too stand up for myself, then I'm aggressive. I'm attacking them.
Feels like a
Yeah.
tightrope that you guys are walking.
Yes.
I have
But
one
you have to also
question.
find out which one of us can talk to them.
Yeah.
We will only deal with certain people. Like we have to find out which one they work with, and one of them will primarily deal with that person, because some people perceive her as more of, okay, she's the adult out of the two of us, as if we aren't both adults, and they will talk past me
Yeah.
to her.
Even though she's older than me. I don't understand.
I'm not older than her.
So, and I have a question for you about your families. What was their their understanding or their perception of people with disabilities before Tia, and how has Tia changed your family's perception of disability?
Our families are very, I guess you'd want to say tight knit. The only thing we ever hear from them now is, you guys are doing a fantastic job. Don't ever let her go to the hospital by herself. And then it's more of a medical thing. I mean, you know, if you go back into time with Black people, we have to watch our people at the hospital. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't even know the right way to say that, but if one person goes, you better believe they're not going to be by themselves. They're not.
Okay. Yeah.
My side of the family is very big on not only me advocating for her, but Carrisa, you know, and my my mother is, if Carrisa has to go to the hospital, she only has if Tia has to go to the hospital, my mom only has two concerns. Who's at the hospital with Tia, and where's her other grandchild? And as soon as she can get on a plane to get out here to come get that other grandchild, so both of us can be at the hospital, that's what she's going to do. I mean, the hospital could have done so many things different. So many. I mean, after her being intubated and her being in, what do they call that? I'm just going to say intensive care for the little people. After her being in there for a week, I mean, there was so many things that they could have told us and said, but luckily, I mean, we had family, because our aunts and grandparents, they were on top of it 112%. And it was a phone call every 5 seconds. Did you guys get oxygen tanks? Did you guys do this? Well, I looked this up online, and you need to get her this, and you need to do this, and Toi, you better do this. And I'm like, I was bombarded with phone calls and people in our families saying, what do you need me to do?
Wow.
And there wasn't support from the hospital. We had to literally argue with them about giving her a pulse ox. And there shouldn't have been any argument. She turns purple in 5.5 seconds. And you guys want to tell me that because the alarm goes off and some people bring their kid to the hospital and they don't need to, that you don't want to give me one for her? That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
No sense at all. Oxygen tanks. We had to argue with them about oxygen tanks. It was a constant battle. We refused to take her home.
We were determined.
I told them no. I said, I'm not taking this baby home. I can't keep her alive, and you keep telling me she's gonna die, and then you don't want to give her a G-tube. And I already told you I can't get her medication in her mouth. That doesn't make any sense.
We've had to get to the point where they were going to call CPS on us for advocating for our child.
Yeah.
And
tell us about that. What does that look like?
So we went to a hospital that I tried to advocate for my daughter. Normally, I am very good at advocating, but there is even racism in our own culture where it's not so much as, I call it racism because you as a Black male or a Black woman cannot show favoritism towards your own race.
Yeah. Or you get in trouble.
Because it's more scrutinized. Any favoritism or anything that you do can be looked at as favoritism. So another time she seized for over 2 hours. It was a Black doctor who I'm like, she does not respond to Ativan. She does not respond to Versed. She needs a loading dose of phenobarbital. You know, I will give you the other telephone number of the other hospital, whatever it is that you need. But He sent my baby up to ICU, actively seizing, and the nurses were like, just go. They'll do it up there. And they were like shocked, but because he was in charge, they did what he did. And because she had seized so long, they had to intubate her. And her health just kept getting worse because she's on the keto diet. There are certain things that she is not supposed to have, and that includes strep. People think of the keto diet as the fat keto diet, like, oh, she can't have carbs.
Right.
No, it's not just carbs. It's what you put on her skin, the type of diaper she uses, the food, the medication, everything. It's a very intense medical therapy. And they weren't willing to listen to that. So her health kept deteriorating. And she was on a ventilator, and she had to have brand medication, all kind of things like that. And I'm telling the doctor, and they're like, no, we don't need to transfer. I'm like, send her to PCH. They know how to handle her. They're used to this. She needs to go there. And they're like, no, it's night, or I can't remember what they were trying to say. It was night. It was no reason to transfer her. I was like, well,
I remember.
you're not. We're going back and forth. My daughter's actively seizing. The nurses at this time are not even coming in. They called a social worker on me. The social worker's in there. At this time, because we're debating this, they stopped giving my daughter care. So she's going in and out. I'm having to like do CPR on my own daughter in the hospital. This should not happen.
So again, they're not listening to you, and
not listening to me at all.
Too. Yeah.
The social worker came in, and it was a Black woman. I was able to explain the situation to her, but she had a duty to call. And she's like, I really don't want to do this. And the doctor was another brown doctor of a different race, but she was of color. And she was like, no, we're not going to do this.
No, that doctor, I remember this lady because at the time I was on the phone video call, and that doctor refused to transfer her to PCH. But we went back and forth with this lady. It would seem like forever, but was about 15 minutes or so. And we got to the point to where said, pack her up. They don't want to take care of her. We'll take her. We'll transport her ourselves. I got oxygen tanks and stuff. I can get her to PCH.
So yeah, that's what we asked
from there.
I asked her, to be as calm as I possibly could. I asked her, what is it that we needed to get transferred? And what is it that the transfer that the hospital does? What do they have that we don't? They said that they had oxygen. So we have our own oxygen. I said, why wouldn't you transfer? She was like, because we have everything we need. So we said, okay, that's our meds. This is this. You don't have this. You don't have this. You don't have this.
They also refused to talk to PCH too. They didn't want to talk to.
They don't have any
children.
rights.
She said that they don't have any rights at that hospital and didn't want to talk to her. And the end result was we ended up driving there. My son and I, we ended up driving there to pick them up.
And because we were going to take her is why they were going to call CPS.
We wanted to take her. They were going to call CPS. And I mean, of course, we were like, I don't care. Call. At this point, I'm livid. Call because you guys are going to kill her. That's what's going to happen. And she was dehydrated. I mean, by the time we got to PCH, they couldn't find a vein. They had to go in her neck. And it was a lot. I mean, I really feel like it just boils down to people don't think people of color have the resources or the know-how or the knowledge. Because had we been white, that would have never happened, because they would have said, you know what, they're probably going to sue us, which I technically still can because she's not 18 yet in the state of Arizona. Oh, I looked it up. But, you have to go back through the records and all that stuff, but that's a different story. But they feel like you don't have the knowledge, the know-how, or the resources, or the time, and they don't care. They're just like, I mean, whatever.
We don't typically follow through. We don't. Yeah, like you said, we don't have the resources or the know-how
to get it done.
Right.
And when people feel like that, and I don't know, I mean, it could be what's that? Like where they're just tired of dealing. They could have gotten a family before us, and they were over it before they even made it to us. Oh,
they were worried about insurance.
Yeah.
And how much money I had to cover for the transport. And insurance won't cover this. And insurance won't cover that.
And they didn't ask you if that was going to be a problem or you care about that,
Nope.
right? That's
They just assumed I didn't.
there's an assumption they had, and they were
Right.
going on that assumption, right? It sounds like that assumption is common, right? That there's
Yes, very common.
we're making.
Yeah.
We really appreciate just your being open to talk about all of this. And
Yeah,
we
your
can just see-
candor. Yeah.
Yeah, your candor, and we can just see your heart and your love for Tia and your family, and we just really appreciate it. We have to wrap up, but is there anything else you want us to know, or any other stories you want to share before we wrap up?
I was just going to say, you know, a lot of Black people do not like people coming in their house, touching their kids' hair. That is not, you're laughing and I'm so serious. I've had to tell a nurse to please stop. Don't do that.
Right.
Please don't do that. And she didn't know. I mean, she didn't know. She thought it was okay to do. She didn't ask, but she also, I was like, oh, you know, what's the right way for me to say that to her? Because there is a right and a wrong way. I'm a firm believer in there's a time and a place for everything, and there's a right and wrong way to talk to people. And I didn't have to get angry with her and be like, you know, don't touch my kid, you know. But I did tell her, I said, you know, for just so you know, it really drives me crazy when you touch her hair. And she was like, oh, I am so sorry. And something so simple can make the world of difference when you deal with people. That's all I was going to say.
Yes, right. And that might be something Tia's thinking too, right? And you're advocating for her too, right? Like,
because she really doesn't like her hair to be touched. She doesn't. Not at all. Yeah. But
that's not her love language.
It's little things like that that make some people feel uncomfortable. And had it been somebody who wasn't comfortable enough to say it to the nurse, they probably would have been like, I don't want her to come back. Just off of something so small, you know, that could have been fixed.
Right.
But you know, that's something to think about for parents. It's
Definitely.
some people don't mean to offend. They really don't. Their intentions are not to offend you, you know, or to belittle you. It's just how it came off. And if you speak up about it, then you can change that situation for the better for your kid. So
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely be open and pause for a moment. That if someone built up the courage to ask you something or tell you something or give you that bit of information to let you in, like that can open so many more doors. Because I'm saying, okay, I'm going to try this with you. I'm trusting enough to give you this bit of information about me and my family and how we work. I'm trying to build a bond with you. If you perceive this well, I'll be more inclined to open up about other things about us.
Right.
I'm more inclined to let you in and maybe even other people. If you realize that I'm not attacking you, I'm just letting you know my love language.
Right.
Letting you know our family language.
Yeah.
And to embrace you to be a part of it.
Clear is kind, right? It's like, that is so true. And I think of that with what you're saying, like being clear about what you need or what you don't want is kind.
totally agree.
Thank you so much.
I want to say thank you for doing a podcast like this. This is fantastic. And you know, with Brenda, the feeling is mutual. If I could grab her and hold on to her till Tia's where I need her to be or want her to be, I would. But you know, I get there's other babies out there that need help too. But
if somebody listening is like, okay, where do I start? What's one thing I could do differently that would be impactful? What would you say?
I would probably say when they come in, the question is, do you guys have everything you need, or do you feel like there's something you're missing? I just asking questions, because a lot of parents are not thinking clearly when people come into their house. They're all over the place. I have 50 billion things I'm supposed to be doing in one day, and keeping her alive is one of them. So had somebody come in and said, you know, I've dealt with other kids, and like, what's her particular condition? I feel like nobody has ever read what's wrong with her. And I know that sounds crazy, but when I talk to people, it's like over their head. And I'm thinking to myself,
Mm,
I gave you all the information you needed. Did you read it? Does anybody
right.
read
You
anymore?
ask for a reason, and that's such a simple thing for us to do as
Yeah,
therapists, right?
that's a
Is
good place to
Yeah.
start.
You know, like when we went to the hospital at first, all it would have taken was one person to come in and say, "Hey, you guys need to have a pulse ox on her. If you're at home and you can't tell if she's breathing in her sleep, just get one." And then, you know, you can talk to the social workers at the hospital, or what are those people called that come to the room and check on you? The like patient advocate people.
Mhm,
But a lot of people don't even do that. They
mhm,
just walk in, look at you, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna check this kid out and then I'm gonna walk out. But kids
mhm.
need so much more because so simple questions.
Right. That's something everyone can do is I'm going to start with, how are you? What do you need? And I'm going to listen to the answer.
And what does this look like for your daughter? Because it
Yeah.
may look different for someone else.
And if you know of a resource, tell us. Don't assume that we know or
Or
that we
don't care or
won't
won't
use it.
use it.
And don't just assume. Don't assume that I have no money
Mhm.
just
Right.
because I'm Black or you think I'm young.
It's interesting. You guys both said, don't assume that we won't use it. Don't assume that we
Yeah.
won't use a resource. So you feel like sometimes
Yes.
people don't tell you about things because they're like, oh, they're never going to do this anyways.
Oh, it takes too much paperwork. You're not going to do that. You don't
Mm,
know what I will do for my child.
Right.
You
Okay.
don't know how much money I will spend on my child. There is no, we've bought so many assistive devices that we found on Amazon or just our own resources.
Right.
Her medication, like
yeah.
someone was, oh, well, Kepra's too expensive. Like she has to have brand. Yes. How much is it? I'm asking you how, I'm not asking. I
Right.
I don't care how much it is. I'm asking you, how can I get her pills that she needs?
Yeah,
Yeah.
checking your assumptions and just saying, hey, I don't know these people, so I don't know their resources. I don't know their ability to fill out paperwork. I'm not going to assume that kind of stuff, and I'm going to tell you these are the resources. This is what you could do. I mean, an eye gaze device is no joke. It's complicated and there's a lot to learn. And I gotta say, that's never been like I don't think we'll do eye gaze because I don't think the family can learn it. I mean, that's never been like a thing. But when on a smaller scale is what you're talking about, was like, I'm not going to tell them about this resource because it's a lot of work, or that resource because it's far away. I do feel like assuming that explaining a resource is a waste of time is pretty out of bounds as well.
I think so. I use resources. It may take me a month or two, but I get it done.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, everyone with a child with disabilities with complex needs, like Tia, it's going to take them a minute to do anything. I mean, I'm going to guess neither of you got more than 3 hours of sleep last night. Am I right?
Uh, she might have gotten less than that. I think I got 3 hours maybe.
Yeah.
We do take turns though, because
Oh, I know, but you're taking
deep.
turns every 3 hours. I mean, this is
Yeah.
no one's firing on all cylinders with minimal sleep. And so if it takes you a month to get to a resource, that doesn't mean the resource wasn't worth every minute of that exchange, you know?
Right.
And
So
although we may not need that resource at this time, so at the beginning of this, I worked full time, had a great job. But once she got sick, I started missing a lot of work. I had to go
Mhm.
down to part time. Our finances changed.
Sure.
So purchasing Kepra at one point in time is totally different than purchasing it
right,
Right.
exactly.
once my job has been threatened and things like that. So
Right. And
Right.
I think a lot of people with children with disabilities cannot afford to have two working full-time parents because the care of the child requires, someone to be home all the time. There becomes a financial limitation, but the assumption of that is what is offensive.
Yeah. Or that we're just angry people. We just maybe didn't get sleep that night. So it's
Right.
not so much as we're attacking you or we think you're it just comes out that way because we're tired.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll just tell you this.
Yeah.
I have never seen angry Tia or Cece, so I've never seen those sides of you. But so even though I've never seen you on 8 hours of sleep, I've never seen you angry. So just know that.
That's
I
impressive.
have Claire to keep me company.
We really, really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to us and being home and awake together with your daughter and making it
Yes.
all happen. And what the viewers don't know is you just moved as well. I will just say that this is a priceless conversation for us and for our listening community. And we are excited to continue to learn more about this topic and to become better human beings.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Thank
It
you.
makes the world better.
Yes. Thank you
Right.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Toy.
right. Have a good one. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.